Oh, it's the greatest thrill in the world to be riding a 1,000-pound animal 35, 40 miles an hour and hitting a little white ball.
Gentlemen, the most valuable player of the game goes to Gonzalo Pierres. Well played. And there's the golden mallet.
It's really a disease. Polo is sort of a disease. I never saw somebody getting out of polo, you know? You always see people coming into polo, but never saying, oh no, I don't like the game, or I'm going to change it for another one.
Polo has always been the game of kings, the jet-set sport, played where palm trees grow and champagne flows. But this image is changing fast. With almost 10,000 players in 35 countries, it is less and less a sport of the rich and increasingly a sport of professionals. The importance of winning the top-level tournaments, with prizes of up to $100,000, means that the top players now have to involve themselves with the game almost 365 days a year, either playing, practicing, or bringing on new ponies. On a ground almost 6 times the size of a football field, 2 teams of 4 players try to score goals without endangering any other ponies or riders. At high levels, 6 chukkers are played, each lasting 7.5 minutes and requiring a fresh pony. Allowing for a few reserves, this means that over 50 ponies will be brought to each game. Back in the stables, a top player probably has access to 20 or 30 horses to keep him mounted throughout a season. Every player in the sport is awarded a handicap, expressed as a number of goals, and reviewed each year by a committee of players. The handicaps start at -2 and go up to a maximum of 10 goals. There are only a handful of 10-goal players in the world at any one time. At the moment, there are 7, 4 of whom are Argentines.
To beat 10 goals is a lot of pressure. Sometimes you think that it's too much. But if you think that you are one of the best, you need the pressure to keep you there. My point in polo is really to try to be the best, to win, to make my living out of polo. On top of that, I have a lot of fun. I have all my friends around the game or in the game. I've been born with polo.
For 9 years, I arrived at the end of the year without anything. Now it's beginning to pay. But I'm 40 years old, and maybe I'm on my way down. The only reason I really want to be a 10-goal player now would be to be able to sit down when I'm 65 years old and say I was once 10. I'd like to do it for 1 year and then put me back again.
I always wanted to be 10 goals. When I got to be 10 goals, don't get me wrong, it was great, but in the spotlight all the time, you can't miss a penalty shot, you can't have a bad game. Every tournament you play in, you've got to be super well mounted to maintain the 10 goals, and it's the pressure. It's just too much.
The 4 positions on the field each have a specific function within the game. Number 1 has a chiefly offensive role, staying upfield to receive passes and score goals. Number 2 is the workhorse of the team, picking up passes and supporting the attacks of his own number 1, whilst trying to disrupt the plays of the opposing team. Number 3 is the centre half, turning defence into attack and feeding the ball to his forwards. He will often be the best player on the team, controlling tactics. Finally, number 4 is the back, playing a steady defensive game, protecting the goal and supporting number 3. The best player for this position is the really hard hitter, who can send balls way upfield. Watching closely over the game are 2 umpires, who have a tough task spotting the many possible infringements of the rules, often missed by the spectators. In very basic terms, a player following the line of the ball has the right of way. It is a foul to cross between him and the ball. However, by riding off or bumping his horse, an opposing player may spoil his shot or even gain possession of the ball, provided the angle of the bump is not so great as to be dangerous. A player may hook an opponent's stick while he is attempting to strike the ball, provided this is not across his opponent's pony. Alternatively, he can meet the ball from the opposite direction, provided he does not cross the line. The game is played with wooden mallets of varying length and flexibility. The stick must be held in the right hand, even by a left-handed player, and is wielded in 4 basic directions. All these shots can be angled to give variations. Hit by the best players riding at maybe 35 miles per hour, the ball can reach speeds of up to 120 miles per hour. Tommy Wayman played his first game of polo at the age of 6, encouraged by his father, who was also a top player. As a teenager, he turned to rodeo, but came back to polo, saying it was just as exciting, but lasted 10 times longer. He achieved the 10-goal rating in 1983, the first American to do so since 1951.
Probably the most important thing to me is the horses. I really enjoy making the horses perform to their maximum. You have to think about the mental state, keeping his mind right, because you're asking them to go wide open, stop and turn, run into another horse. At the same time, you're swinging a stick off of him, and a lot of times they fatigue or they just quit. They just throw in the towel. The first time a racehorse's feet hit the ground, there's 3 times his body weight on the front 2 feet. How many times does a polo pony do that in a chukker? A cutting horse will cut a cow for a maximum of 2 minutes. And we're asking this horse to do what that horse does for 7.5 minutes. So to me, the polo pony has got to be the greatest animal athlete in the world. I like horses that are 15 hands to 15-2, short back, long neck, pretty head, a short cannonbone, very important, good feet, a long hip, and strong.
Nice, kindly, decent horse. Don't make it in a ring.
Each horse is different, so a player has to have a game plan and an individual plan for each chukker. You have to really concentrate on what horse you're riding, what chukker.
What color, y'all?
And you know what your opponent's going to be riding, so you'll try to put your strong horses against their strong horses, your weaker horses against their weaker horses.
Come on and call anything. Good luck, Tommy. Okay.
You can't just go to the beach. You've got to watch the competition all the time. Never play their game. Try to get them playing your game. A lot of polo ponies go to the left much better than they go to the right. So you see a player that's having problems getting to the right, you'll put all the balls to the right.
Wayman takes the cut shot. It's almost to goal. Wayman, nothing in it in front of the goal mouth. Taken out there by Timo Pinello. Wayman turns that ball around.
Every position needs a special kind of horse. Number 2 needs a very quick off the mark, very handy, short bursts of speed. I have to have a horse that's very light in the mount because I'll get into a play, and if a horse is not quick and I can't get out, I'll get run over.
You just want them to where you can take 2 fingers in. Because when you're going wide open, it's going to take more than that. But if they're schooled to lightness, then you've got it. And just are born with it. They've either got it or they don't. Once you see that they have it, then you have to protect it. Don't be severe with them, but don't baby them either. There's a happy medium. We put halters on the babies and we play with them a little bit. It makes it easier the older they get to handle them. It takes a lot of time, 3 years, 4 years, actually 5 years before you have anything really good enough to take to Palm Beach. I've taken the very best mares that I've played that I know that are good, and I'm trying to cross it with the best stallions.
99.9 KISS FM, and don't call it love. Don't call me either. Not at this time.
Where the nose goes, the ass has got to follow.
She's natural. A natural makes a horse trainer out of a lot of people, you know. Patience is the biggest thing. You might have to ride the horse 15, 20, 30 minutes to get him prepared mentally down or mentally fatigued to where he will train. Then when he becomes too tired, you have to quit because a fresh horse won't learn and a tired horse won't learn. You have maybe 5 to 8 minutes a day that you can really school a horse.
Polo, once you catch it, you never get rid of it. You've got the disease forever.
Come on, this is a good girl.
I'm always looking for horses. It's actually very difficult to find an extraordinary polo pony.
Julian Hipwood learnt his polo in the Pony Club, along with his younger brother, Howard. His natural ability was so remarkable that he gave up his ambitions to be a professional footballer and has played polo for England since 1971.
I was always told the best type of polo pony was a 100-mile-an-hour donkey. In other words, very quiet, but could do 100 miles an hour. Obviously, they have to stop and turn. Usually, you get horses that are better to the left than the right, or right to left. But a wonderful one does it naturally both ways. And accelerate so you have tears in your eyes. There are very few about. You could count them on your hand, really. In the States, they're selling horses between $20,000 and $40,000. Americans don't care what they spend. I don't spend a lot of money. I just started trying to make my own horses. When you get up to a high standard in polo, you realize you're there because of your horses. The horses are probably 75–80% of the game. They all have character. I've had horses that have nothing about them that I like, and yet I have some that I love. It's because they have those little things that they do. They're like little people. Howard is a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot more physical.
Howard?
Hits the ball. Well, you wouldn't want to get in the way of one of the balls he hits. I'm a little bit quieter. Maybe I cut plays more than Howard. We used to play very well together, but now we're usually battling against each other. In the States, it's a very competitive, will-to-win game. I prefer it here, the good fun of the game.
What do you want us to do, Governor?
Win. A lot of people come off that polo field absolutely thrilled, not because they won or they lost, because they're still alive.
Well, is that what we did to you last time?
They're thrilled that they've given somebody a good bump or hooked somebody's stick. The thrill of sitting on a horse, hitting a ball, galloping flat out around the field is unbeatable. It's just that wonderful feeling. Is rather like motorbikes. I just like the wind in my face. I like the feeling of speed. A motorbike is a mechanical thing, but now we have an animal that has a brain, has these four legs going all over the place, and has a, you know, they don't all stop the same. The brakes, you know, sometimes you can't reline them on a horse. There's so many little things that happen out there on the polo ground, amusing things or really infuriating things, that everybody afterwards, they meet in the bar, they talk about those things, and there's a lot of leg pulling that goes on.
Oh my God.
Argentina produces more players and more ponies than any other country. Horses here are still bred in thousands and used to work the cattle, which provides an excellent training for the skills required on the polo field.
Argentina is sort of behind other countries, but that is very good for polo because you can still use a horse that I hear that in Australia and places like that they're using motorbikes.
Gonzalo Perez, the youngest of four polo-playing brothers, has been riding since he was 3 years old. Like so many top players, he depends on buying and selling polo ponies.
It doesn't cost more to breed a polo pony than just to raise any horse in your farm. The labor is not very expensive, you know. That helps a lot. The breeding of polo horses here is nearly 90% a thoroughbred. The good mixture is a little bit of quarter horse or horse that is very good to work the cattle. They don't need to be just built to run like a thoroughbred. You have to find the type to stop quicker than normal. not very tall, because that way you don't miss a ball. Athletic ability of the horse, that is the name of the game. I buy my horses when they're around 6 years old. They play maybe 2 seasons. I should spend 100% of my free time looking for horses to try to maintain your handicap. You have to maintain the level of horses. That is really the secret. You get very close to some ponies, but you need to sell them so you make your living. We are 4 brothers. The 4 we play polo. Since we are 10 years old, we think in polo, we dream at night in polo. Fanatic, you know. My cousins play polo, all the friends of the family. Argentina has close to 4,000 players because here is very easy to play polo. The basis of why there are so many good players here is there are hundreds of young children that they already played a lot of polo. %70 of the good players, they have another top player in the family.
I think it keeps families together, and that's one of the things I love about it. That they have one interest, and then we all go the same place, and we sort of all have the same friends. Most of these are my sister's sons and my brother's sons. There's one of my brothers here, actually. He is 68, and he's still playing with his grandsons.
The main reason I play polo is because I love horses. The horse is more important than the sport itself. But when you start competing as seriously as we are doing now in all over the world, I think you have to be a good polo player, you have to forget about the horse for the 7 minutes you're on it.
Women in Argentina, I don't think there is one actually that plays polo. You cannot live the way that women like to live, you know, sort of clean. I think it's a question of costume.
But the male dominance of the sport is a comparatively recent aspect of polo. Mentioned in manuscripts as early as 600 BC, it is the oldest known ball game. Polo originated somewhere on the plains of Persia and was first played on tiny Manipuri ponies by men and women alike. Spreading through China and Mongolia, and then down to Tibet and India, polo acquired its modern name from the word pulu, the willow root from which the ball was made. In the 1850s, British cavalry officers first encountered the game in India and were so enthusiastic that they brought it home when on leave. The first match in England was played in 1869 on Hounslow Heath, with 8 players on each side. And such was the popularity of the game that it was even played by night. In 1876, James Gordon Bennett took polo to America, and it has never looked back. Once it had spread south, it did not take long for the Argentines, capitalizing on their flat, open plains and handy native ponies, to become the foremost players and breeders of ponies in the world, exporting both their own skills and those of their mounts with great success. However, following the Falklands War, Argentine players and ponies were banned from England for several years.
England, it was a place that we were sort of fanatic to go. everybody likes a game and they love horses. You play, even if it rains, you play. Has a lot of character.
Polo in this country has definitely deteriorated since the Argentines have not been playing here. I mean, you imagine cricket without the West Indians. The Argentines are the best polo players in the world.
I played with your father.
We heard you fled out the bedroom window.
When the game gets underway, you'll be in everybody's way, so please back to your seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Windsor for the Coronation Cup. England in blue, Mexico in green, and we're in for a big, really big afternoon. I assure you of that. We look at the England side. England, number 4, Howard Hipwood, Superman of English polo without any shadow of a doubt.
Some horses are really exceptional, so you have to mark up much tighter to stop them escaping, because once they've gone, they've gone. Also, your teammates must know if you've got somebody in your team that can actually fly on a horse. You try to hit long balls because they've got the speed. Really super horses don't actually follow the ball, although it would just take a fingertip touch to make it. It knows that it's maybe going to have to follow the ball. When you change horses after a chukka, you have to anticipate accordingly. If you jump out of a Ferrari and get into a Mini, you know the difference. Try and pick up Memo a little bit more, Howard, and I'll go for Carlos a bit more, okay? And just keep sending them up, and cover anybody that comes through.
Who's playing three? This one, man, bloody got him. It's your man. Don't let them turn, don't let them play. If they play, they'll beat you.
¿El caballo dónde está? ¿Cuál caballo quieres? ¿El llorón? No, el cromo. No, el cromo.